Welcome back to Brands Hatch for our second Caterham race. We are now going Roadsport racing. Yesterday, you'll have seen the Caterham Academy runners, and we've got some of last year's Caterham Academy runners in the championship this year, including Taylor O'Flanagan, who's one of the two champions in the Academy last year. The weather is doing what it did for the 7 race earlier on. Can't make its mind up. We've had a little bit of rain. It's dried up. What's going to happen, I don't know. The clouds are flying over. Shortly flying out on track are going to be the Roadsport runners. So let's have a word with the man who won yesterday's race, Taylor O'Flanagan. I hope, Taylor, you can hear me, and I hope our viewers can hear you as well. First of all, congratulations on the win. By my maths, championship lead now?
I think so. There's still a couple of drop scores to take into consideration, but I think current standings, hopefully, yeah.
Dominique, significantly, he's way back because he had a DQ yesterday.
Yeah, really unfortunate. You know, sometimes these things happen, and he's quite upset about it, but I'm sure he'll have a great race today, working way through the pack. What
changes do you make on these for the conditions?
I'm actually running a fairly dry setup. I'm fingers crossed it's sun's gonna come back out. But you can run full tread tyres and softer roll bars, so you can get a bit more lean in the corners if it's really wet.
You're the white class champion from the Academy for last year. And, you know, are you climbing the ladder, as it were, or, you know, are you going to stay with Caterham? Are you moving up? I guess the logical thing was to come into road sports.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Caterham racing, and every single race and every single year it gets better. So, yeah, hopefully I can continue up through the ladder. Best luck for the race today, Taylor, and thanks for talking to us, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good one. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to have a quick whiz down. We're listening for the whistle for when they go out. I've got a theme tune for you now, going back to the 60s. Apologies for the singing. Come and have a look. This will give you a clue because they've all got the number plates on. So we've got Batman here. The reason his nickname is Batman, and you'll only know this if you're of a certain age, hence the grey hair and the losing it on top. The actor that played
our apologies for jumping in the middle of that interview there with Richard, and I'll forgive his singing as well, given the fact that he was referring to Batman there. But apologies for that. He's having a chat. He's having a chat there with Adam West. Apologies for the audio issues that we had there. But yes, the Caterham Roadsport Championship is getting itself underway very shortly in what I'm sure is very different conditions than they were expecting this morning. But as we mentioned, the weather has been pretty varied in terms of what we've had today, and it's been the story of the weekend. We've either had rain showers, then sunshine, but the rain hasn't been consistent rain where it's made the track either fully wet or fully dry. It's come in fits and starts, and come in kind of bursts of different rain showers of varying intensity, which means that in that point it's becoming very difficult.
Let's have a word with
head out very shortly. And again, I think I can see just on my multi-camera thing that Richard is still having a chat with some of the Caterham drivers down there. So apologies that we had 1 or 2 audio issues with them down there. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get them sorted for our next race that's coming up later on this morning. It's our last race of the kind of morning, early afternoon before lunch. That's the Caterham Modern Motorsport Club. And there's been a bit of a recovery going on for a couple of the Formula Fords that fell by the wayside throughout the race we just had for Formula Fords. And now we're just getting ourselves sorted. Now, cars heading onto the grid now. Now, whilst they do that, I need to give you some information from yesterday, because if you watched yesterday's race, you won't have known that afterwards there was a couple of penalties that were handed out. One in particular was handed out to one of our championship contenders, that being Dominique Mansberger. Now, he's been given a disqualification. I'm reading directly here from the timing sheet here. He's been disqualified for either causing collision, repetition of serious mistakes, or the appearance of a lack of control over the car, referencing the regulation in the Motorsport UK Blue Book. So, for whatever reason, the clerk of the course decided that some of his driving standards were not of the standard that he would have liked in that race, so therefore, unfortunately, Dominique was given an exclusion. So that, unfortunately, will count towards his overall point score. He can't use that as a drop score, and that means he'll have to try and really claw his way back. And when you get a situation like that, whether you have an exclusion, well, we can't use that as a drop score, which means that you will have particularly a 0 counting towards his entire score for the year. So it means now for him, he's going to have to work extra hard, particularly he will start towards the back of the grid as a result of that, which means he will start in race number 1. So we can give you that grid now to show you where they're going to start. And it's Taylor O'Flanagan who started on pole position, who will start on pole position as a result of his win yesterday. He starts alongside Batman. That's the Formula Ford grid as far as I can see, so that's not the Caterham Roadsport. Apologies for that. So Taylor O'Flanagan starts on pole alongside the man which Richard Johnson has dubbed Batman. It has him on the front number plate. That's Adam West. Alongside him on the front row of the grid, row 2 is Hugo Bush in car 22 and Tom Cockrell in car 59. Then it's Gwyn Jones in car 97 alongside Alex Vincent in car 17 on the 3rd row. Peter Mott and Andy Lund come next on row 4. Followed by Nick Timpson and Steve Lancaster to round out the top 10. Then it's Ron Mounsey and Marcus Eels, followed by Andrew Berg and Adrian Mariadis on the 7th row of the grid. Mike Hilton and Kevin Turner come next from Sam Gibbons and James Hall, who James was having such a great race yesterday. He had one of his best qualifying performances to date, and he was up as high as even challenging for the lead and battling for the front of the field, and then had a spin and off which put him out of the race. He had contact in that race which put him out. He was sideways up at Druids, and unfortunately the damage that he had forced him back down the order and eventually starting this race back in 18th. Rounding up the top 20 is Chris Griffith and Michael Koo. Then Ian Hapgood and Peter Lawson, with Simon Arnold and Christopher Broom coming next. And then our 2 drivers that got disqualified yesterday, that being right at the back of the grid, which is Ryan Lovett, who's in the bright green Caterham, right at the back, right of shot. And then the left of shot, which is the black Caterham with the green nose cone, that is Dominique Mansberger. So just a reminder then, as the cars go off onto their formation lap of where they were when they came into the weekend on points. I will look through my paperwork here to find my Road Sports points table, which is right in front of me here. So Mansberger came into the weekend leading the points table by just 2 from Taylor O'Flanagan, with Tom Cochrane in 3rd. But this will dramatically change the landscape of it now. With the exclusion of Mansberger, this means that he will now have to fight doubly hard to make sure that every single point he gets counts. He cannot afford to be dropping any more scores, really, because he's already having to include 1-0 score permanently into his score for the entire season, minus any drop scores. So this is going to be very tough for him. But the Caterham Roadsport cars make their way around onto the grid. As Richard was alluding to, these Roadsport cars are particularly drivers that all contested both of their respective academy groups last year. It's their first full season of both drivers from both academy groups racing together. This is for ex-academy and novice drivers only, so not only can you have ex-academy drivers, but also novice drivers only can race in this. So you can't step back into road sport if you've been in higher ranks. It's only for novice drivers and those graduating out of those 2 academy groups. You get 30 points for a win. You also get a point for fastest lap. In terms of the spec of these cars, it's pretty much the same as the academy car, 100 usual Sigma engine. But the differences that you get on the upgrade of these cars is an uprated. They come off the Academy-specific tyre, which they run in their first season. They go onto the Avon ZZS tyre, which they use pretty much all the way up to the top of 310Rs. And then they have a rear anti-roll bar to reduce body roll, particularly roll-on oversteer, which you'd have thought with roll-on that makes it quite fun to drive. But of course, in racing terms, the less you slide, the faster you go, in theory. So if it looks unspectacular, it's because it's usually quite quick at the same time. So quick colour check then. It is Taylor O'Flanagan in the bright yellow Caterham on pole position on the front row of the grid. Alongside him, which is the blue and orange car, that is Adam West. It's the grey and orange car of Hugo Bush. And then it's the red and white car of Tom Cockrell. Gwyn Jones is the red Caterham in there. Alex Vincent, the 2-tone green car. We are set for the second Caterham Roadsport race of the weekend at Brands Hatch. 5-second board is up. Red lights are on. It's O'Flanagan and West with the sprint down towards turn 1. Will anyone else behind be able to get a good jump off the grid? It's a cracking start from pole from Taylor O'Flanagan. A good start also for Tom Cockrell on the outside line. 3 abreast for 3rd, down to 4th place, down towards Alec Colben. Gwyn Jones is on the inside of both Hugo Bush, but Alex Vincent goes around the pair of them on the outside line and is into 4th place as they head up towards Druids for the first time. So it's O'Flanagan that leads the way. It's Cockrell 2nd, Adam West 3rd, Alex Vincent 4th, but side by side for 5th because also having a good start. I think that was possible. Was that Peter Mott looking quite strong at the front of the field? That's right myself. Yeah, Peter Mott started 7th, so it's the fluorescent yellow car with the black nose cone. That's Peter Mott in there in 7th place. As they turn their way up now onto the back straight for the first time. Andy Lund there having a scrap with Nick Timpson. And Dominique Mansberger has not hung around. He's sideways, always 3 abreast with something to 30s. Dominique Mansberger is not hanging around. Oh, and there's contact in the background. One car's gone around, that's the 26. 26 is Peter Lawson, who also made a very good start, back from what was 22nd on the grid. He got himself inside the top 20, but now he finds himself all the way back to the tail of the field again. That's a shame. So, down the pit straight they go for the end of the first lap. And it is O'Flanagan that leads, Cockrell second, West is third, Vincent fourth, and it's Bush, Jones, Lancaster in seventh. So it's probably Steve Lancaster, my apology. There are quite a few yellow cars in the field, so I should know the difference between them, being the Mr. Caterham in many cases. It's Steve Lancaster in seventh. It is Peter Mott in eighth in the slightly sort of more regular yellow car. There it is, Peter Mott. Then in ninth and 10th, Ron Mounsey in the kind of navy blue and gold car. And then Dominique Mansberger, who's come from the back of the grid, and he started way back in 25th position. He is now into 11th place. So he's passed more than half the field in a single lap. That is astonishing work from Dominique Mansberger. You can tell he's on the charge. Going off the road, he's Alex Vincent. That's not the way to go. He's almost blending into the circuit with that two-tone green car, but he gets back onto the black stuff. He's now under threat from Gwyn Jones, who looks around the outside. That will be the stronger line out of Clark Curve. And as he scrabbles for traction, Gwyn Jones will have the power to get past him. Or that's the theory, because they're still side by side onto the Brabham Straight again. First proper flying lap in the books. Taylor O'Flanagan naturally takes the fastest lap, 1 minute 3.006. But we come out of Paddock Hill Bend up the hill towards Druids. Sometimes the wet conditions can kind of negate any chance for proper battles, but as it starts to dry out and become drier, the more confidence the drivers have, the more frantic the battles become. So hopefully, with the fact that the rain has currently abated for a while, we do get some scraps throughout this rest of this race. It's a 20-minute race for the Roadsport contenders. Quick check on Dominique Mansberger. 2 more places picked up. He's passed Andy Lund and also passed Ron Mounsey that we saw he was just behind. So up into 9th. There he is. That's the black car with the bright green nose. There he goes through the shop. The rest of the top 10 goes through. There also is. That's James Hall. Now we need to watch out for him as well. He was very strong in qualifying. As I mentioned before the race, at the start of the race, he was quite strong. But here comes Batman. It's Adam West then. Onto the back of Tom Cockrell. He takes the fastest lap of the race. As he looks into Paddock Hill Bend. Given the fact that Adam West, he came into the weekend, he's 11th equal. He was 11th equal in points coming into the weekend. But again, for some of these drivers, won't really care about that too much. What they'll care about is actually getting a good result and the confidence which these kind of results will give them. Turns his way out of Druids, keeping the top 2 in front. Now this is interesting because it's Taylor O'Flanagan's not being allowed to get away here. Tom Cockrell, who is a fellow 2020 Caterham Academy champion, like Taylor, he's starting to close in here, and this is the battle royale that we always love to see. Whenever we get the 2 academy champions from the previous season that make their way up towards Roadsport, where the 2 of them get on track together and start battling, that's when you get the real grudge match to see who ultimately is the faster of the 2. When there's a championship battle on the line as well, it makes it even more interesting. Adam West is a bit of the proverbial bat, shall we say, amongst the pigeons rather than the cat. I'll focus back on racing in a second, don't worry. As we come back into the right-hand for Paddock Hill Bend. Still Taylor O'Flanagan with Tom Cockrell in 2nd position. Adam West keeping touch in 3rd. As for Dominique Mansberger, he's up 1 more spot to 8, so he's from the back of the grid 25th into 8th position. He's in the top 10. There's Hugo Bush in the grey and orange machine, number 22. So he's also closed up. And this is, again, a typical Caterham scenario. You get the front few cars starting to stack up behind each other and start to battle, and then lap by lap it brings more and more cars into the fight. So you see that Gwyn Jones isn't too far away, so he will start to get himself involved in a moment. There's Gwyn Jones in the red car with the black stripe right at the back of that leading 5-car pack. Flanagan keeping it nice and smooth, nice and neat and tidy through clearways, up through Clark Curve on the exit, swing all the way back onto the Jack Brabham Straight, and the traction that Tom Cockrell gets off the corner might try and put him alongside Clark Curve. He's thought about it going to the inside line, and Flanagan kind of gave him a bit of room, but then realised that Cockrell wasn't going to be fully alongside, so he was going to hold on for the time being. But look at Adam West up this inside at 2nd place. He doesn't care if he's not in a championship fight. He wants a 2nd place. He could go for a win here if he plays his cards right. There's still quite a way to go. 14.5 minutes left in this 2nd Caterham Roadsport race. Now the wipers are on Adam West's car. Well, that's just for the sake of it, in terms of the fact there's a bit of spray coming off the cars in front. Or is that a signal that the rain is back again? Because it is hovering. There are some grey clouds hovering overhead here at Brands Hatch, so certainly could be a possibility. Quick check on Dominique Mansberger. There he is, look at the bottom of the shot, he's into sixth. Now, I should mention Dominique Mansberger. He is someone who effectively is the Rainmaster, or if we're talking in German terms, the Rainmeister. And he is down to 6th position. Now, he goes incredibly well in the wet. He's won several races in the wet. Whenever we've seen him in the Academy and in the Roadsport, he is the driver to watch out for. And in these slippery conditions, he seems to judge them absolutely perfectly. Flanagan takes the fastest lap, but then surprise, surprise, Mansberger picks it up. It's a 1:0.015. So as the track continues to start drying more and more, as the laps tick down, we will start to get into sub 1 minute lap times here. But still a bit greasy up at the top of Druids there. You can see the damp patches that they'll try and negotiate here. Adam West holding on to 2nd place, but the question that's got to be for Adam is, has he got enough ultimate pace to catch up to and then try and pass Taylor O'Flanagan, or has Taylor got that little bit extra in reserve to try and hold on? Well, last lap they just completed, they were both on very even lap times, but the difference was about a couple of hundredths of a second between O'Flanagan and West. Cockrell still 3rd, Bush in 4th, there's Gwyn Jones in 5th position, he's a race winner in his Caterham career. Correct, he took a win here at Brands Hatch, so it's a circuit he quite likes, but he's scrabbling around for traction on the exit through Clearways and then through the high-speed Clark curve onto that Jack Brabham straight. And there is Dominique Mansberger in 6th in that black and green Caterham. 7th now is Peter Mott, 8th is James Hall. Remember, he started a bit further back. He was 18th place on the grid. So he's come from the 9th row. Here's a battle here. This is Steve Lancaster scrapping with Nick Timpson. Ryan Lovett's in there as well. Now, Ryan's also another one that got disqualified yesterday, and he's actually from the back of the grid. He started 26th. He has now got himself into the top half of the field. So he's passed 14 cars at this point. 13 cars to get himself from 26th into 12th. I will get the maths right one day. As they come down towards Brainhill Bend. So that continues on. That's still Steve Lancaster, who's now lost out to Nick Timpson. Timpson now into 10th, the final top 10 spot. They're going to be leaders in the background. There's Dominique Mansberger, not too far away. He's taking a slightly wider line, exiting Surtees into Kink of McLaren. Long corner at the top is right-hander at Clark, and then the fastest lap changes hands 5 times in the matter of seconds, because you then had Taylor O'Flanagan took the fastest lap of the race, then it went to West, then Cockrell, then it went to Cockrell, then to Gwyn Jones, and then to Dominique Mansberger, who does a 58.140. He's almost a second quicker than the leading cars in front. So he really is charging up to the back of them. If he wins this race, it'll be one of the drives of the season, not just in Caterham Roadsport, but in the entire BRSCC season. That would be so impressive if he can manage that. We need to keep an eye on that just in the background. So, coming up towards the second half of the race here, 11 minutes to go. They make their way down the Cooper Straight once again. Leaders again in the background sweep through Clark Curve. There is Alex Vincent, still the threat from Nick Timpson. Timpson having a big dive up the inside. Used it very late, but he knows that Vincent will have that grip on the outside, the wet line. And as he struggles to try and put the power down, tries to hold on. Now look at Mansberg with another new fast lap again. He's in the 57s this time, 57.9, and he's only 7/10 away from Gwyn Jones. So the top 6 will be together in a matter of moments. Leaders are coming out of Druids. Oh, Gwyn Jones has run wide up at the hairpin. We're still watching the guys at the back. That's Marcus Eels having a scrap with, I think that looks like Adrian Mariadis. And also in there too is Andy Berg and the Sam Gibbons in car number 3. There he is. Right, here's our leaders. Now then, there is O'Flanagan under threat from Cockrell, who's got back past Adam West. So since we've been watching that, Adam West actually the last couple of laps has crossed the line in 4th. So it's changed around since we last looked at them. O'Flanagan now leads. Cockrell's now in 2nd. Hugo Bush is now 3rd, and they have now pulled a gap on Adam West. So the top 3 here, who essentially are 3 of the 4 drivers that have won a race this season, are all in contention at the top of the field. Mansberger, as we said, is now up to 5th. His next target will be getting past Adam West. Into the hairpin at Druids. Hugo Bush then, who before yesterday had won 4 races on the bounce. Had a bit of a rough start to the season at Donington Park, but he's managed to get himself back in the groove with the victories that he took. In fact, no, forgive me, that was, he took 3 victories and a third place. 3 victories and a third place. The second win at Silverstone was taken by Dominique Mansberger. That was his first win of the year. Forgive me, I think of a different Caterham category, apologies. But as the leaders then come back onto the pit straight, Hugo is really catapulting himself into championship contention with the fact that he's won that many races. Here's our scrap for 4th, 5th and 6th. Taylor Flanagan with a new fastest lap. Is it beaten by any of these 3? Not quite. So Taylor now takes the fastest lap. He will get a bonus point for that if he holds on. So Mansberger's come in a bit of a stumbling block here. His progress has been briefly stunted by Adam West. But he can carry on finding a way around here. Sure, there's avenue to get past to get to 4th, but he's running out of time because if he wants to catch up to the top 3 in front, he needs to find a way around Adam West here. He's also got to be careful that Gwyn Jones doesn't get himself back into play as well as they exit out of Graham Hill. And now the run down Cooper Straight, and the momentum that Gwyn Jones has had means that he's closer to Mansberger than Mansberger is to West. So I think I might have picked him a bit too much in the beginning. I think his progress might have been temporarily halted here by Batman. So top 3 all together, all in each other's slipstreams down the Jack Brabham Straight. Still O'Flanagan, Cockrell and Bush all together. Adam West, then Gwyn Jones takes the fastest lap of the race. So, ironically, the only driver that didn't take the fastest lap of the race or take a turn with it is Dominique Mansberger. So, he's now got some work to do to get himself back on the pace. There's John Bryant there on the inside of the corner, the Snappy Racers photographer, main photographer for Caterham. So, shout out for him. Put himself in a nice position down at Drews to watch the cars under braking. Should be some good shots from him. Oh, Dominique Mansberger very sideways on the apex of Graham Hill Bend. He's off the road. Oh dear, well, his progress, I'm afraid, is now going backwards because he was as high as 5th. He's now dropped behind Gwyn Jones, and I don't even want to say if he's even in trouble, but I hope he's not, but it'll be a real shame if he gets as high as 5th and then starts to tumble back down with problems. So not really the weekend that how you hoped it to be so far, but looks like he's back down to 6th. So, leaders back towards Paddock Hill Bend. Now the fighting can start. Hugo Bush with the fastest lap of the race, but it's the 2 Academy champions from last year who are going wheel to wheel into the first corner. Down the hill they go. Still O'Flanagan from Cockrell. Hugo Bush having a peek at 3rd place. Into the hairpin they go. Line astern. This is where it starts to get interesting. Now the track's starting to dry out a little bit more. It's not as damp as it was. There are still 1 or 2 greasy patches out there, but the overall weather conditions appear to be much drier now. The rain has abated. It is getting brighter out there, but this scrap is starting to heat up a little bit more as well. So as the circuit gets drier, the cars get closer together and the fighting starts to intensify a little bit more. So O'Flanagan keeping both Cockrell and Bush at bay as they turn back out through Clark Curve. Back onto the Jack Brabham Straight, 6 minutes to go on the clock. That time we should get, I think, roughly at least another 5 laps, I think, given how quickly some of these guys are going. Adam West takes the fast lap of the race, and then Gwyn Jones as Hugo Bush, I think, dropped a wheel onto the painted line on the outside of Paddock Hill Bend under braking, and did very well to catch that. Otherwise, it could have been a one-way ticket into the gravel trap at Paddock Hill Bend. I don't want to curse it, but we've been very good this season, this weekend so far, with cars going off in the paddock. I would have thought with the ever-changing weather conditions in the races that we've had more cars going off there, but only had 1 or 2 compared to quite a few skating off every race. So kudos to all the drivers for the most part, mostly keeping their cars on the straight and narrow. There's Ryan Lovett, who is currently up into 9th place after he started at the back of the grid in 26th. And Mansberger has stayed in 6th position for the record after he had his little mistake at Graham Hill Bend, but he really has lost touch with the battle for 4th between Adam West and Gwyn Jones, so I think 6th is as high as he'll go. And actually, look at that battle for 4th, they're not too far away from this battle for the lead. Adam West is under threat now from Gwyn Jones, who sets another new fast lap of the race. He's in the 54s now. Round the outside he goes of Adam West. Side by side. Oh, no, there's contact. Oh, and Gwyn Jones was ironically saved by Adam West. That could have been quite a big tank snapper and quite a big spin. But ironically, the contact, unintentional, he was saved by the touch he had with Adam West. So in many cases, he's got a little bit to try and benefit him a little bit. So, out of the left-hander, down the back straight, up towards the top of the circuit. Matthew Clark curve. There is now 4¼ minutes. Well, I said they might catch them, but Commentator's curve strikes again. Adam West might still have enough pace in him to catch them if these top three start to hold each other up. There is Adam. His car's a bit lighter. Now he's got one less of the rear wings on the back of that car. You know that he'll be straight to Caterham's supply truck to get another one for race for the next round at Croft at the beginning of September. He's got a month to do that. So the back markers just moving wide. That is 51. That will be Simon Arnold getting out of the way. It's good drive from Simon. Well done for that. Keeping offline and keeping out of the way. Letting everyone else get past him as cleanly as possible. Good job from Simon. I just feeling there's something brewing here because Tom Cockrell's been biding his time here for 7 laps. He's not really had a big attack on Taylor Flanagan yet, but he just sense with the time ticking down, some of these drivers do have a small timer that they set off in the car next to them, so they can keep tabs on how long is roughly left in the race. Just sense he might get an option here to try and line him up for a pass. He's got a good run down the pit straight here towards Paddock. I think we're getting a few spots of rain again here at Brands Hatch. A few of the windscreen wipers are back on. And now as they come up the hill, they're just dropping Hugo Bush a little bit as Cochrane now goes on the offensive. Whip to the outside line, they're side-by-side under brakes into Druids. And again, on the power, it looks as though that Cockrell can't quite put himself fast enough alongside O'Flanagan to cause himself, to make himself that much of a problem. Adam West is carrying on. Now his last lap was a 56.5 as spin there for Andrew Berg. He gets back onto the road. That's up at Clearways where the leaders are about to approach. And there is car 20. That's cars further back actually. Some more battles further back in the pack. That is Chris Griffith having a scrap with Michael Koo, I think. And here then, just behind them are our race leaders. So 2 minutes and 15 on the clock. So we're going to get, I think, possibly 3 more laps, unless the rain's going to keep on intensifying here, because it is starting to fall again. And I wonder, is this going to catch some of the drivers out? They started in damp conditions, it's dried up a little bit, and now it's getting a little bit wetter again. It's now down the outside once more. There's Tom Cockrell, and in the wet conditions here, the wet line will be much more preferred. You will find much more grip. Leaders then come back down towards Graham Hill Bend. There's some of the back markers are coming up to you then, and that might well play a factor. Someone else is moving out of the way. They're driving for the back marker there. But now with a good run off of Graham Hill Bend on the approach to 30s, another back marker's in front. He's going to have to keep out of the way here, which he does. And that's very close. Hugo Bush almost gets involved. Adam West is closing in. That's another spin for the 88 Michael Koo. There's cars off the road. That I think is Peter Lawson. Michael Koo's off the road. 51 is Simon Arnold. They've both been caught out by the conditions. They carry on unscathed. And there's been a bit of a shake-up there because Taylor Flanagan has pulled out a small gap to Tom Cockrell. Not only that, he's under threat from Hugo Bush down towards Paddock Hill Bend. Adam West is in there too. You can see the car with the Batman logo on the back of it. There is Adam. So Taylor Flanagan, whatever happened at the top of the circuit there that caught them all out, I think it was a mistake more for Tom Cockrell because he's then fallen back with Hugo Bush, and if they keep on scrapping, look at Adam West. He's in the fight now. There's only about literally this one more lap, and he's up the outside of Hugo Bush looking for 3rd place. Bush fights back at Graham Hill Bend. The undercut works for Adam West. He puts the power down on the inside. If he stays there, he will be on the inside line for 30s. Here comes Adam West on the inside of Hugo Bush. Can he squeeze past? There's more cars in front going off the road. And they're catching Taylor Flanagan again. This could be a real grandstand finish to this second Caterham Roadsport Championship race. As Tom Cockrell runs very wide on the wet line, both Bush and West try to stick on the proper racing line. And Flanagan, meanwhile, is trying to pull away here by quite a margin. In yesterday's first race, he won that race by only half a second. It's a bit closer this time. West then trying to get himself back onto the podium. He was 2nd yesterday. And now he tries to try and get himself into the podium. We're ticking down to the last few seconds left on the clock, which hits 0 any second now. So this is the last lap. There's back markers battling in front. This is not what Taylor needs. Up through Druids for the last time. Cockrell's back in there. Ian Hapgood gets sideways, but Taylor Flanagan's going to be desperate. He's saying, get out of the way, please. In through Graham Hill Bend, Hapgood moves over, sacrifices his own battle, but look at Tom Cockrell who's roll over on the run towards 30s for the final time. Bush is there, West is there. Mansberger's not too far either. He's 7 seconds back. He's a little further back as they come through. Up and towards clearways for the final time. Bush has a look up the inside. Cockrell closes in. Adam West is in there too. This is going to be a real photo finish. Cockrell is right underneath the roll cage of Taylor O'Flanagan. It's a sprint to alive. O'Flanagan gets the toe from the back marker in front, which ironically might just save him, and it will be a double for Taylor O'Flanagan in the Caterham Roadsport Championship. Another thrilling finish. O'Flanagan wins, Cockrell second, Bush is third, and Adam West picks up fourth. Off the road again at Clearways is Michael Coote. Keep it on the road, sunshine, as he comes back on the road. Fifth for Dominique Mansberger. Credit to Dominique, though, a brilliant drive in those wet and damp conditions from the back of the grid, 25th to 5th position. A top 5 finish will certainly be some consolation for him. He could have been as high as possibly in the podium, but Taylor O'Flanagan, I'm certain, will take the lead of the championship once again. And ironically, that's his first 2 wins back once again since the start of the season in, ironically, the wet conditions. And that was at Doyleton Park. But you can tell he's happy. A punch of the fist in delight from the cockpit as he and the crew come back in. We also salute the marshals, who once again have been doing a grand job here this weekend and have been doing an excellent work all the way through. So, congratulations to everyone for surviving that race. That was pretty tricky nonetheless, but everyone looks to appear to, just about everyone's made it home from that 21 lap encounter. So the conditions will certainly get a little bit more tricky as the afternoon goes on. We're just leading up to our final race before lunch. So I'm waiting for the results to go up on the screen. We can give you provisionally what they show on my TSL screen. In fact, here we go. So Taylor O'Flanagan picks up the win then, but only by 0.160 of a second from Tom Cockrell, with Hugo Bush rounding out the podium. Adam West is 4th. Mansberger from 25th to 5th. It could have been higher, but that mistake pushed him a little further back in the closing stages. Gwyn Jones takes 6th and the fastest lap of the race. And it's Peter Mott, Ryan Lovett, and James Hall and Alex Vincent. And it's Nick Timpson 11th, from Ron Mounsey, Andrew Bergban, Chris Griffith, Ian Hapgood, Simon Arnold and Michael Koo. And we actually lost, unfortunately, Steve Lancaster, Andy Lund, Kevin Turner, and our last non-finisher, well, that's the rest of them being Andrew Mariadis. Oh, they're drivers that are lap down, forgive me. Andrew Mariadis, Chris Broom, Sam Gibbons, Marcus Eels, and I think we lost also Peter Lawson in the end, who was another further lap down, and Mike Hilton, who seems to skate off the road in the early stages. Well, for those watching on the Caterham stream, we're going to take another break for the rest of the morning's action and lunch.